welcome everybody. Our next speaker is Dave Williams with Bull Information Systems, which is a French company, but I've been told that he is not. So how about a nice big round of applause one more time?
Right, hello. I'm going to talk about the all-in-one Nagios solution, which is based on a Raspberry Pi. So let's start with the beginning. You can pass that round so everybody can see what a Pi looks like. I'd like it back eventually, please. A few things about me. This is the agenda, bit of background, the Pi. A recipe. This is a kind of schizophrenic presentation. It's going to be half heroic, me giving you rah-rah and get on with it, and half this is exactly how you do it. So it's kind of technical and exciting in both ways. Bit of a demonstration. You may notice this thing over here. This is the demo unit, prototype unit, whatever you like to call it, of the all-in-one. The crucial thing about the all-in-one, as we're going to see, is it looks friendly. It is this. That is it. That's what you take away with you. That's what you drop on a desk. That's what works. We sincerely hope. Then I'm going to go into the rah-rah bit, which is just me going a bit mad with a few ideas and kind of trying to shake your world a bit about how Nagios might be used. When I did this slide, the people said, I said, I'm coming to St. Paul's. Well, the only St. Paul's I know about, of course, is this one with a big red bus in front of it. I've been doing this sort of thing and in this business for, when I look at the audience, for somewhat longer than most of you have been alive, which is distinctly worrying in my case. I've got to stop sometime. Mainframe, minis, micros, you name it, I've been working on it. System monitoring wise, see, I've got St. Paul's, you've got that, it's nearly the same. We're talking OpenView, NetView, OpenMaster, so these are the big enterprise umbrella products. Started playing with NetSaint when it was NetSaint on AIX, an interesting port. And then on to Nagios, or Nagios, depending which side of the pond you come from. So, basis of this offer is the Raspberry Pi. Now, I'm not going to read all that out to you. You can read. But the concept is that it's a very small, very inexpensive, and here's a game changer, very inexpensive system. $35, I think it retails for in the US of A. And capable of doing a great deal of things. In the overall design, some of the ideas were it's got to have great output. So HDMI, a lot of density, a lot of pixels, a lot of power in the GPU. It's got to have a network connection. So we're talking 100 meg Ethernet, maybe not the best, but better than nothing. It's got to have a way of finding the outside world, so that's your USB ports. And it's got to be able to do things. Doing things means interacting with the outside world. So there's a very nice GPIO port here that you can toggle things on if you're into that kind of stuff. And something I mentioned now when we get onto this, that it's also been designed to go into primary school. So these are like 5 or 6 year olds playing with these things, which is about the same capability I would suggest as your standard IT user, and therefore all the holes in it are different. It's not possible to plug a cable into the wrong place. And that was designed really for children, but I think it works just as well for users. Raspberry Pi, you pop up this map every year, there are more Pis all over the world. You get a Pi, if you bother to register it, you get a map like this. There's some charming ones, actually appear to be 4 in Tahiti, which I'm quite impressed by. But soaking across America, Central America, then you'll see in a slightly Chinese base. I'm not sure if the Chinese don't actually have them, whether they manufacture their own, or they're just not telling us, but they're not being very friendly about that. But there's a lot of them about. Supply's easy now. You said optimistically. So, system monitoring. Question you don't want to hear, how big's yours? Well, this is fairly large, I think. And that's not really the target audience. You invest a lot of money, you get one of these. Great. Most small, medium organizations don't want one of those. They've got maybe 4 or 5 servers. Maybe they run a small business edition. Maybe they run a little web server. Maybe they run Navision accounts or something. They've got a few boxes. That's all they've got. They don't want this. what they quite like, obviously, is this. Monitor, keyboard, mouse, running. That's it. It's doing the job. This is my attractive prototype that comes from the UK, but this is what it is. So this suddenly becomes something that it just changes the world. I want a monitoring system? Certainly, sir. Here's one of the books that I can put on your desk and turn it on. I'm now leaving the building. That's it. They don't have to buy a server. They don't have to understand the ins and outs of downloading stuff. They don't really have to understand operating systems. They don't have to perturb anybody. It's kind of an off-the-shelf purchase. So, I think this is big enough. And this is the secret, I suppose. It's a VESA mount on the back of a monitor with attractive holes. You'll need to get to those GPIOs, and I'll explain why. This slot here is where the camera plugs in. Now, there's a small design issue at the moment. There's a very nice 720p HDMI capable camera that plugs into that slot. Unfortunately, it's on a ribbon cable about that long. So the back of your average monitor, about that long. So it's just not going to match, which is why you'll see that poor little thing has got a USB camera on the top of it. We'll get there. I'll get something with a long cable, and then it'll all be beautifully integrated. But again, the idea is this is all kind of hidden from the user. He just gets a monitor. This is bolted on the back. This is my prototype, so cut out of plastic, but it will work. I've seen people have had demands. This is 100mm. VESA, like all standards, any standard is standard, you just choose the one you want. So with VESA, there's 100mm, 75mm, and oh my God, that's a really big screen. It's a kind of really big one. But as we're just using a plastic substrate, it's not a problem, you just stretch it out. So what's a Raspberry Pi look like? It looks like this. So we've got a USB, two high USB slots, Ethernet. Pretty LEDs that light up, and if you really care, they tell you something, but you don't want to know. Audio. This now ships with 512 meg. You've no idea how much fun that makes, having 512 instead of 256. When you're doing stuff with Nagios, and also when you're doing stuff with the system, you're running it standalone. So this is actually running X and the browser and Nagios all at the same time in the same little 512 meg system. It was a lot slower when it was running a 256 meg system, let me tell you. And in fact, as we'll see a bit later, it does give me some room to play. Now he's trying to log on. We'll get back to him in a minute. He'll fail. Now, it's a Raspberry Pi. It's got a tiny little power supply, 5 volt. You can run it for a battery pack then. So suddenly this starts to grow a bit more. So, okay, I could have a turnkey Nagios system that just sits here on a desk. Yeah, but with the addition of a small battery, suddenly it's got its own UPS. So your monitoring system, which is SME with maybe only 2 or 3 servers, suddenly he's got a UPS protected monitoring system. If you're using out-of-bound alerts, maybe you're trying to SMS text people, well, of course that works as well, because if you have, I'm not saying you should trawl eBay for a Nokia 6210, all right? But if you have, you can plug that into the Pi using an RS-232 link, and that could be your SMS texting machine. It's not a problem, it just works. But of course, it's got a battery as well. So suddenly you're now talking someone who's paid not a lot, who's got a completely sealed system, who's got a UPS monitoring system and a UPS alerting system that will work forever. More than some enterprises have. So there's plenty of ways of doing the battery thing. I don't recommend this one, but you can do it. This is a crazy, but emergency thing, batteries. And of course, the nice thing about cigarette USB lighter converters is that they regulate down to 5 volts. So the fact that I've got 12 volts going in, this regulates it down to 5, and that's what I need. And it's a straightforward connection. So it's handy. I'm not sure you'd bet your life on it, but it would run for about 4 to 5 hours on those batteries. You might want to do this. Just because it's in a slicker box doesn't always mean it's a good thing. But why not reuse a perfectly good backup battery system that can be on charge all the time and runs the power through to there? So this is a proper UPS now. Have a power interruption, it goes to battery, power comes back, come back on again. So again, this is all, I wouldn't like to say $2 or $3, that's about a $10 purchase on eBay. But so you've still got this very, very low price point and you're achieving these really, really high levels of adaptability and survivability. So this is the recipe really. It's kind of changed yesterday. We've got a Nagios instance, which was 352, but after the welcome evening, I staggered drunkenly back to my room and built 4. So there you go. Apache 2, I think you're thinking Asterisk and Motion. What's going on there? Asterisk because it's very easy and quite efficient to configure Asterisk on the system to make phone calls and tell you about your problems. So again, you get voice alerting. Now, this small box that you haven't paid very much for. It'll voice alert to you. And yes, it does sound a bit like a Dalek, as we will see, but better than nothing. Motion, I just thought, I'm hoping this is going to be the pride of place in some SME's environment, either in their reception or in office space. And I thought, overnight, why don't we just stick a camera on it and do motion detection? And they can send me a message, or the owner a message saying, did you know that the lights have gone on in your office at 3 in the morning, and was that really intentional? Maybe, maybe not. But, and again, motion, dead simple, and we're seeing the recipes how you configure it. You really can't see this, but what I'm really trying to say here is, on the logs, you can actually see us say, oh, I've got a warning, motion detected, whoops. Notify service by phone, calls, and I'm going to get this taken out. This is one that goes up on the web. That's my home phone number. Please don't put that in. Telling me stuff. So it's an actual log back in September. It's almost the right time. So there's a log there of motion detected and using Asterisk to call out and to talk to me. If you want to roll one of these, it's pretty straightforward. I've included this in the slide presentation simply because I'd like you to go home with something. So if you really wanted to, you could roll this stuff yourself. It's not that hard. Yes, service by phone. This is pretty obvious. Now, the thing you've got to realise about this is I'm going to convert this, well, I'm not, the system is, to actual speech. So my advice to you is to keep it clean. Okay, just keep it nice and simple. I once worked in an environment where the so-called systems analyst had a sense of humour, and the voice of the warning system used to ring up in the middle of the night and would say in a woman's voice, "Gee, I'm hot." Okay, and then if the humidity got too high, it'd ring up and say, "Gee, I'm wet." And if they both happened at the same time, it would then go critical and it would say, "Gee, I'm hot and wet, come and get me." Now this is sense of humour, lovely. When your wife picks up the phone at 4 in the morning, you have some explaining to do. Again, this is just straightforward. Now this is just about how we're going to build stuff, how we're going to put those lovely words and phrases into a position. So it's just kind of we're building stuff up. We've had the alert. We've decided what our text is. We've put it in a certain place. And then we do the evil. So this is the nice thing. Press 1 to repeat. So now I'm adding IVR onto this message. So now we've got this little box. It doesn't cost very much. It sits with a UPS, telephone. It can ring us up. And then also say, oh, by the way, if you want to take an option, press 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever it is. And it will react to it. What's that? It's very small. It doesn't do much. So then this is just the mechanism because Asterisk likes ULAW when you're trying to send it across a telephone system. So we have to get it to wave using SOCKS. and we bend the output WAV file, we convert it to ULAW. Actually mess around with it. It's fun. But again, this is just a kind of roll your own. Do it if you want to. Now this is the thing that you shouldn't do. I'm showing you how to do it. You shouldn't do this. I am actually building an internal Asterisk call set up here. So I'm saying, oh, how many returns, keep going, wait, what extension, I'll come to that in a moment, and all this stuff. And then I echo it into a file, and then I move it. And the reason I move it is that this is the internal spool area for Asterisk. So he thinks he's the only person who's writing in there. He's wrong, which is why I've faked all those entries, and I'll do a move because there's none of this. He starts reading it when I'm still putting stuff on the end type problem. So if you read any textbooks or manual about Asterisk, it does say, don't do that. I think it works. This is the Asterisk setup. So we're setting up extension 999. This is our call plan. We're going to background it. We're going to wait. We're going to hang up. So it's just a standard sort of call setup process. You wait, take the information. You exercise, in this case, a background text file. We wait, and we hang up the call. And then we go, oh, things we do. So if we're in here on this extension, we'll start ringing. We go backwards and forwards. But mainly, we're setting our text out. We're setting up, running our little program that sets the alarm up. And then option 3, and you can guess what this might say, is when you hang up the phone, you get a very nice message saying, I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that. But that's all, again, it's just a framework. But if you've got that basis, you can do it yourself. You can roll your own. And this is, again, it's just my definition for my SIP provider. So this time I've taken the password out, which is good. And it will be any SIP provider. So if you plot this out, this is something like 10p, 15 cents maybe a call. So it's just Vonage or whoever it's. Whoever is your local SIP provider, you can make that up. So there you've got the recipe for it. And now we're going to try some technology, and this could be very dangerous.
This is a Nagios service alarm type custom. Nagios service alarm localhost has a problem with disk OK, free space, /1337 MB 38% and node equal 67%. The problem is OK. Press 1 to repeat this message, or press 2 to acknowledge the alert.
So that's what that box will do for you, without any great effort. As I say, you really might want to kind of work the messages a bit harder, but yeah. So that's it. And if you do a 2, this might happen. What we see here is a log, and we see a custom notification coming through saying, look, I've acknowledged through phone. So again, this is, I would suggest, fairly big boy stuff. This is enterprise type monitoring built in, but it's coming in a little box, put on a shelf that no one really knows what it does. They don't care. So motion, just the same really. It is so ridiculously easy. I'm trying to cater for lots of different cameras, but in this case I'm using send NSA, but this is basically the thing in the motion script. I'll just send this. What am I sending? I'm sending the NSCA. So, and it just pops up and says, something's moved, your choice. You can do something or not. So, I'll fire up the box in a moment. We'll have a little look at what's going on there, and I'll see if we can get a demo to work. One of the side effects of this is, of course, that it's a Raspberry Pi. And so, you've got this, I wouldn't like to say completely capable, but not particularly good web browser. Die. Well, if we go to our local, eventually we'll start. There we go. So they're loaded up. This is, well, I'm not sure if we'll put the customer there. Start at the home screen so you can see it is 400 on this to gov. Look at the event log. So it's running on that. It's running with that browser, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. So everything's running in the same box. So I've got Nagios, I've got Asterisk, I've got Motion, I've got X, I've got desktop, I've got the browser. So it's all kind of go. And this is the kind of memory usage that I'm looking at. So before getting too excited, I've got about 237 meg available. When I get really excited, I'm cut down to 137, so, which I consider, considering I've got actually, it's in there, it's all working. Be not too bad. That gives me scope. One of the things it gives me scope for is, of course, one of the things that the manual says we don't need to do anymore, which is, of course, RAM-FS type memory stuff. And the reason is not performance as such, because running 4, of course it's fast. It's the actual medium that we use. In the disks that you use, oops, got spare. Someone's thrown it away. Oh, here we go. The disk that you're using in that Pi, SDHC disk. Now these are great. I mean, it's like having your own solid state storage device. This is really good. And you can do really cheap upgrades because you have a class 4, kind of works well. Get a class 12, 3 times as fast. This is the business. But they wear out. I'm afraid just by merely accessing them, they wear out. So what would I do with all the high writes files, high input-output files? Do I want them on there? Not really, no. I'd quite like to sort of make them a bit more comfortable in there. And that's not a performance thing, it's a longevity thing. Right, let's see if we can start the demo. Raspberry. Wish you didn't do that. Cool. And now, this is going to be slightly trickier than I expected. So that is logged on to the Pi over there. And it's a bit of nowhere. Where you go to here then? Make sure we're good. And now, if all works well, I'm going to try and walk in front of my camera. Also try not to look too much like a burglar or suspicious person. And this is, of course, in all demonstrations you fear. Hey, I've been detected. So I've got another motion detected, and the go is off to, so it's my phone, which is going to be worrying me because it is actually on the wireless internet, so it might be ringing my home as we speak. There's no one there, though. So it's a very simple, massively sophisticated system. I just get it, it's great, yes, but it can do lots of things. So this is the bit where I drop off the technical part and kind of, evangelistic part. So how would you do this? What could you do? I would suggest that you could do this commercially for less than $2,000. Now, you think, that's still quite a lot of money. How do you get from like $35 to well, the answer is because you get all the kit, glues to the monitor, a nice man comes and configures it for you. This is the bit where we try and keep the user as happy as possible. So this builds in a man coming saying, okay, what's your problem? End of the day, It's running. It's monitoring what the customer wants. You prove that the paging or whatever works. You give them a phone number and say, you know, you can ring us up to 5 times a year. He also takes away a copy of that SD disk with the configuration on. And they walk away. Now they can do all sorts of things. They can just never see you again and just keep that running. If they've got guys who know how to do things, they can just enhance it themselves. It builds up to all sorts of things. You could say, okay, actually, if you've got internet access, maybe you want to R-sync your updates to me. Maybe you want to let me in to do your config changes for you, all sorts of stuff. But this is small and medium. This is a different marketplace. This is not people with tens or hundreds of servers. This is addressing people with maybe 3 or 5 servers. You know. Instead of paying that for a pretty poor server, you can get a pretty good environment system. We can extend it to environment. You may have noticed that I haven't mentioned that yet, that it's not only looking at the servers and systems, we can extend it to the environment monitoring. And we are considering in the UK making this as an offer throughout Europe called Vision Pi. Now, a few things about it. It's called Vision because we have a thing called Vision Services, which is our real-time monitoring service that we sell to people. So we have people sitting in dark rooms with staring at monitors, 7x24. Pi, because it's a Raspberry Pi. It has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that my French lords and masters pronounce this really differently. So this will be Vision P. And this is just going to amuse me for the rest of my days if I can keep on getting them to say that. I have to say that someone beat me to it because Bull P has already been taken. So what else can we do here? So this is a bit where I start sort of climbing away. Going, oh yeah, can I mean, it's a very nice picture. We can put the status monitor up. It's very nice. But it would still be better if I had a better visualization tool. So can I drop Nagios or Nagios TV or something like that? Well, yeah, because I've kind of tested it and live status kind of works, so I can kind of feed it. Could I do XI on that? Don't see why not. Might take a bit more memory, might take a little bit of work. What will kill it, of course, is that. So Ethan and I have to have a drunken conversation about why should the license fee cost more than the rest of all the equipment put together. But I think there might be a deal to be done on ARM because it's just a different process technique and it's never going to go anywhere else. And what other monitoring scenarios, what other things can I do? Do I need to worry about doors opening, windows opening, it raining outside, so I need to get the washing in? What is it that I might need to do? Well, environment monitoring. Ooh. This really amuses me. It's a one-wire sensor. Yeah, I know, I can count as well. 1, 2, 3. It's good, but it's already there. There are kernel modules for this. If I load the modules, cable this in, and the joy about one-wire monitors is that they go onto that GPIO and you're thinking, not many PIDs. I only need 2 and I can daisy chain them. Because of their sophistication, they identify themselves uniquely, so I can tell which one on the daisy chain has got the environment system. So immediately, $12, thereabouts, and then it's just, I think for $18 I can get a 2-meter armoured one-wire temperature monitor. And that's just saying, you put it in there, you give it a go, and it pumps out the temperature. Well, it's good enough. Anything that gives me a temperature, I can then work within a script and feed it to Nagios to do stuff. You may have seen this before. Do you want something bigger? Why not? Why not have a wall of monitors doing all that for you? This is a Raspberry Pi project. Behind each of these is a Raspberry Pi driving the screen. There's one Raspberry Pi feeding and synchronizing the feed. These 2 interesting gentlemen actually work for a military research establishment. You'd never guess, would you? So, you think, so I can have a little one, yeah. I can have an enormous one. it still doesn't cost me a great deal. All it's costing me is the monitor and a Pi. Not very much. I thought it was worth pointing out, yes, you look at that poor little prototype, and I'll explain right now that it's not the best thing you'll ever see in the world, because I've come over from the UK, you might have guessed by the accent, and I didn't really think I wanted to carry a monitor all the way, so I came over here and I trundled into Best Buy and I bought one, which isn't my desired model, but it's enough for demos. So there's a bit of cabling hanging out the back and a USB hub that would not be there in the production system. But it's still a lot of stuff to carry around to do development work. So if you fancy doing a bit of development work, get one of these. It's an old Motorola 8-Trix lapdog, they used to call it, which has keyboard, mouse, HD display, and is powered by USB and micro USB. So you just plug it into the Pi and fire it up, and it's your first Raspberry Pi laptop. So in my home office, which my wife will tell you is a complete nightmare, by the time you've gone past a few racked up servers, the Solaris kit, the P series kit, a couple of Macs, an X server, you know, sticking this on another shelf is just going to drive them nuts. This just looks like a laptop, so I can keep kidding her. It's not that bad. So, closing thoughts. Normally, when you do an agenda for one of these things, you go conclusions. No, these are not conclusions. They're just my vaguely random, but interesting, I hope, thoughts. This is a disruptive type of technology. Okay, there's not been nothing like this before. You can't. Can you really grasp what it's going to do to people? Suddenly, you've got a $35 system with a really sophisticated monitoring interface, with a really sophisticated set of software behind it. What's that going to do? It's the price, availability everywhere, capability up here. So that's a big change. People take that on. Everybody might have. I mean, not everybody. Anybody who's got a couple of servers, they might. So, what I would like to think is, over time, Hoover became, you know, the name. You say, don't say vacuum cleaner anymore, you say Hoover. Then Philips, you don't say crosshead screwdriver, say Philips screwdriver. So that brand owns that. So why can't we have Nagios, the system monitor? Why can't you get to sell enough of these, get enough of these out into the world, that when you ring up your network provider or Microsoft and you say, my Nagios system said this happened, the guy in Bangalore says, okay, and actually understands what you're saying to them. Yeah? Why can't it be as public and as confident and as obvious in the infrastructure as that? And that is it. And I got my Pi back as well. So, any questions? We're off.
One point you might want to make to other folks considering Raspberry Pis, you don't need monitors and keyboards because it's running a standard Linux kernel. Set up your SSH server. You can access it all day long with SSH, run Apache on the Pi. You know, you've got the web server remotely. So, I mean, you don't need all the hardware. All you need is a Pi and a network cable.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason about the all-in-one is I'm just trying to get it to that different place. If I could find a way, I would like it to be shrink-wrapped and hanging on the wall in Radio Shack. You know, you just say, add monitor to get a monitoring system. If you could get to that level, then it would be endemic. But yes, most people can use it as a standalone box.
Any additional questions?
There's a development model of the Pi out now that's, I think, got a gig of RAM and bigger CPU. Have you had a chance to play with it at all?
I've only ever seen it at MASH events. I haven't got my hands on one. At the moment, I'm just trying to disrupt the market, trying to get this out. If I wait for another product, then of course I'm six months down the line. And if, for those of you in the early doors of Pi, you may remember that there were some manufacturing issues that delayed the announcement somewhat. And I think there's a time when you should just take the product and take it to market and try and do something with it. This is a window. Why not? But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting hold of one of those.
Any other questions? Are you sure? All right, how about a nice big round of applause one more time for Dave Williams, ladies and gentlemen.